Hi, this is Mary Burke-Kelly, and this is a demonstration for my Level I Acutonics students on day 2. The purpose behind this particular practicum is to have you practice with some of the concepts that you've learned in the last 2 days, namely the points that we went over today, the point location, and work with the appropriate colored tuning forks on those points. And you can take this whole little practicum and have it be a nice little session for someone. If you're in my class, you should have some written directions. I have written directions and steps 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. That's what I'm going to use since I know where the points are. And there's also visuals up on your Google Classroom. One of the things that you can do when you have your session all planned out, like we have in this particular practicum, is it's smart to lay all your forks out in the order that you're going to use them. Like here I'm going to use 2 low ohms for grounding, and then on your list, these are the next ones in the order of the practicum. So it just kind of goes faster. You may also want to have your stickers because we're going to mark the locations with the stickers. One of the things that you can do when you're first learning is to use stickers and do your point location on, let's say, all the posterior points first, so that you have that all marked, and then you can just go ahead and use the forks and have a nice flowing session. First thing we do is ground, and let's find our grounding points. Our grounding points, which you should be familiar with this by now, but in this session is just going to be kidney 1, gushing spring. So that's going to be located on the bottom of the foot, right in the heart of the sole of the foot. And if they were to curl, their toes, it kind of like sticks out. And we have 1 on the left and 1 on the right. So the first thing we do is ground, and you can do that either with the 2 low ohms if you happen to have 2 of them. That's what I'm going to use because it's going to give me a really deep, really fast grounding just on the 1 point, kidney 1, gushing spring. If you don't have that, you can go ahead and you can take your low ohm, if you have the Solar 7 set out of that set, put it with your mid ohm, and make ohm octave, and that creates a big space between ohm in one octave and ohm in another, so it's an even bigger shift into grounding. If you don't have a low ohm from a Solar 7 set, then you use what you have. You use your 2 mid ohms, and you'll get a nice fast grounding with that. So when we start grounding an in-person client, we tap, and it's good to always kind of put it next to their ears. Let them hear the ohm so they can kind of get settled before we come down onto the points. If you were doing a distance session, you can put them in the mic a little bit, let the person hear them, even though the vibrations will go to them if it's distance. When you're using an interval during a session for the first time, sometimes it's nice just on the first time I'm using that particular interval for the person to go ahead and activate it and let them hear it at the ears a little bit before I come down and come onto the body. If you don't remember to do that, that's fine, but it's just like the first time I use zodiac ohm or the first time I use new moon ohm, I may put them up to the ears and let the person hear it a little bit, or if I'm doing a distance session, I'll put them in the microphone. So if you recall the Huatu Jiaji points, we're going to start up at the cervical vertebra, and we're going to work our way down through the all the vertebrae, and these points are located on both sides of the vertebra in the spaces in between, and you can use your different techniques that I showed you yesterday. I'm weaving them, and then when we get down to the sacrum, we're just going to continue through the sacrum. You'll do this for 3 iterations. So what are we doing when we're talking to all the organ systems of the body? We're talking to the entire nervous system, and we're telling it to relax and sedate. If there's any pain, we're removing the stagnation that is creating the pain, and we're relaxing and sedating. We're putting the person into a more meditative state. We're relaxing mind and muscle. The entire time we're doing this, the whole signal, the whole communication is relaxing the mind and also relaxing the muscle. So mental and physical relaxation, sedation, meditation, a state. This also helps the person feel like less overwhelmed. It helps give them perspective, because this zodiac fork is that Earth on its very large almost 26,000 year cycle through all the signs, all the constellations of the zodiac. So it's so long, it has so much perspective, it's seeing everything. So the person kind of feels like, gee, I don't know why I was so overwhelmed. I don't know why I was so stressed out. So this is something that I like to do. A lot of times right after I ground, this is the first thing that I do with my clients. And remember, when the vibration dissipates out of the forks, then you go ahead and you reactivate and you continue where you left off. And you would do this for 3 iterations. Your next step in your practicum is to do the cranial sacral still point, which helps get all that cerebral spinal fluid, central nervous system fluid to flow up through the spine into the brain, which is a good thing. So let's find our points on the cranial sacral still point. We have 2 points that we can find. Do 2, or lower back shu. You find the sacrum first, that hard bone with your hand, and at the very bottom of the sacrum, the sacral hiatus, is due to lower back shu. So don't be afraid to feel for the sacrum on a person. It feels good to have that hand put a little pressure on the sacrum when you're finding points there. We don't touch enough in our society. So the location for Do 16 or Wind Mansion is, it's actually below, it's this big divot right below the occipital bone, and it's really easy to find because you can just come down the skull and it goes right in to this big divot. That's Wind Mansion. That's one of the 2 points that we're going to be using for this cranial sacral still point. And you can put the forks right through a person's hair. That's fine. I'll mark it with a sticker so you can see where Wind Mansion is. That's where our new moon fork is going to go. So it's going to look like that when we're actually applying them. So when we treat the cranial sacral still point, you're going to want to tap the ohm first and then tap the blue new moon and get in, just let the new moon down on Wind Mansion 216 first, right before we put the ohm down on do 2. Just kind of get in the habit of doing that when you split the forks, because that's going to become more important in what we do tomorrow in class. And you would do the cranial sacral still point like that for 3 iterations. And what are we doing here? We're moving the fluid. We're opening up the cerebral spinal fluid. We're moving it up the spine into the brain stem and the brain, which is a very healthy thing. So do this for 3 iterations. So the next portion of your practicum is to learn how to build up the kidney. And it's really important for you to learn how to find these points, because the kidney is our battery. It's the thing that gives us so much energy. And so it's important to learn how to find this. So the first step in finding bladder 23, which is called back kidney shoe point, and these points speak directly to the kidneys, is to find it's easier to find the do 4 first and then go from there to find your 2 kidney points, your bladder 23s or urinary bladder 23s. So the first thing that you do to find do 4 is you find the top of the person's hips. So you find the top of the hips, and you can come from the right or the left, it doesn't matter, and follow the top of those hips over to the center where your vertebrae are. Now that happens to be lumbar 3. We don't want that. So you're going to go up 1 vertebra to the bottom of the lumbar 2, and that's going to be do 4, which is Ming Men or Fire Gate. And that's our little location that is easier to find to help us find urinary bladder 23. So the urinary bladder 23 is going to end up being 2 finger widths lateral. That means to the side, to the left and the right of this do 4, and that means your client's finger widths. So you can kind of like gauge your hand to the person's hand, but you can also feel, and they line up with the paraspinal muscles, if you know about paraspinal muscles. So about, there's one on the left and one on the right, because these are, you've got a yin battery for the kidney and you have a yang battery for the kidney. So this is our 2 points that we want to put our Earth Day 5th on to build up the kidneys in your practicum. When we're using the Earth Day 5th, remember our keywords are to build and tone. So we're going to tap your ohm first because it's slower, and then the green fork, and you're going to go ahead and you can put 3 iterations on the left bladder 23 back kidney shoe point, and then you can do 3 iterations on the right one. And what we're doing here is we're building the battery. It's going to tap the ohm first and then tap the dark green fork. That's your Earth Day, makes Earth Day 5th, and you can put 3 iterations on the 1 urinary bladder 23 back kidney shoe. So you can do this 3 times on the left, and you can do it 3 times on the right. Now, if you're in like a busy practice, the other thing you can do to get 3 iterations on these 2 points is you can put both forks, both the ohm and the green fork, on the one and let that go in until the vibration almost dissipates, for the person gets the vibration amount that they need. And you can put it on the right side. And then what you can do is you can split your forks in the one and put your green one on the right or the left and let those vibrations dissipate. Then switch the colors of the forks in your hands and put the colored fork on the other one and the ohm one, vice versa. So someone that you know is really fatigued and really needs their battery built up, you would probably maybe opt to put 3 iterations on the left and 3 iterations on the right. It's always good to build the kidney. We don't usually put dispersed forks on here. We want to build the battery, just like you would not want to discharge or disperse the battery on your phone or any of your electronic devices. We want to build up the battery and the energy. On the bladder 10 and bladder 60 combination, to find the location of urinary bladder 10 or celestial pillar, you're going to find Wind Mansion or Do 16 first. That's your landmarks. That's that big divot that we just used in the cranial sacral pump, and it's comes right off the base of the occipital bone, and so that's our landmark. What we want is we want urinary bladder or bladder 10. So what you do is you take your finger from that divot and you just slide it over. There's big muscle here underneath his hair. And so you slide it over, and it's at kind of the base of the joint of the trapezius muscle there. Your finger will naturally slide a little bit down, all right? And you have one on the left and one on the right. That is urinary bladder 10 or bladder 10. And it's called celestial pillar. And that's what we'll be using for our overall body pain combination with urinary bladder 60. So the forks are going to actually go, when we apply the forks, they're going to go on the UB10, the point location for UB60 or bladder 60 is going to be on the outside ankle, between the outside ankle bone or outside malleolus and the Achilles tendon. So this is actually the opposite of, you've already found kidney 3 yesterday, which is on the inside of the ankle, the same location. Now this is on the outside. So you would find the location for, you have one on the left and one on the right, and this is going to be part of our bladder 10, bladder 60 combination. Your practicum calls for you to use the new moon fifth, so that's going to be your mid-ohm with your metallic blue fork. And we're going to split the forks contralateral. So it doesn't matter whether you start at the foot or whether you start at the head or whatever you do, but we've marked the points of bladder 60 and bladder 10. So you're going to go ahead and activate the ohm first. It's lower to give you the fifth, and then the blue. I'm going to go ahead and put this UB10. I'm putting the blue fork up here on UB10, celestial pillar, on his left, and then I'm going diagonal, contralateral, over to the UB60 Kunlun Mountain, and you're going to wait for the dissipation, almost all vibration dissipation of the action fork, which is the blue fork. And you would do that for 3 iterations. Then you're going to switch the colors of your forks if you're staying on the same side of the table. And we're going to go ahead and activate the ohm and activate the blue. And this time I'm going to go ahead on the opposite foot, and I'm going to go ahead and put that blue fork down there on UB60 on the ankle, and I'm going to go diagonal or contralateral up to the UB60 celestial pillar. So that would look like this, where I'm putting the blue here, and I'm going to the opposite side up there. Now you could see that this is a very tall person, and I am short. So if you're having a hard time stretching like that, and your client is awake, one of the things that you can do, you can ask your client to bend their knee and hold their knee up. And then that way you don't have to stretch so far, where I can go ahead and I can put the blue fork on this ankle point, and then I'm resting my hand on the heel, and then I can come up here and I'm not stretching as far. And if they are capable of bending their knee, you know, up even more, then you don't have to stretch as far. And then you could also have done the same thing on this side. It's just a little trick that you can do when the person is a lot taller than your reach is, so that you don't have to do as much. What are we doing here when we're doing the bladder 10, bladder 60 combination? This is for overall body pain, all over, back pain. What we're doing is we're opening things up and we're dispersing out any of the discomfort or pain by doing this. Now, you can put layers on here. You can put Zodiac Ohm on first to relax and sedate out the pain, and then follow it by New Moon. But for the purpose of this particular practicum, we're just going to use the New Moon today, because we're going to be doing layering of intervals tomorrow. Last step before grounding is to do 4 gates, and to kind of learn how to do that for someone else, and it's going to involve finding the location of liver 3 or great surge on someone else. So you would go ahead and you would run your finger down this indentation between the first metatarsal and the second, meaning the big toe and the next toe. You run your finger down until you find where the indentation stops, because that's basically where 2 tendons are splitting. That is great surge or liver 3, which is the source point for the liver. And you have one on both feet, so we're going to go ahead and locate them on both feet and mark them with a sticker. The location for large intestine 4, which is Union Valley, is going to be between the thumb and the forefinger in that indentation or pooch of skin for the person. So that's where we put our sticker. That's where the forks are going to go. You have one on the left and one on the right, so you would find the location on both sides. The technique for 4 gates is we normally use the Zodiac third, which would be the ohm and the purple fork, because that's going to give the liver loves the Zodiac. There's a lot of liver stagnation, and of course we're trying to get, the idea of 4 gates is to get a smooth flow of chi throughout the person. So what you would do, the technique for this is we go ahead and we activate the ohm and activate the purple fork, and then go ahead and put the purple fork down on one of the feet, and go contralateral with your ohm up to the hand point, which is large intestine 4. And you would do that for 3 iterations. It doesn't matter which foot you start on. It doesn't matter, you know, what side you start on. It doesn't matter, because it's going to create, you know, a figure 8 of this energy. So you would do that 3 iterations, where there's the purple down there on one of the feet, and then the ohm is contralateral or diagonal up on the hand, the large intestine 4. And then you would go ahead and you would switch the colors of the forks in your hands. And this time, you're going to make sure that the colored fork or the purple fork is up on the large intestine 4 or the hand point that has not gotten a fork yet. And you're going to go diagonal and put the ohm down there on the other foot, liver 3, that has not had any energy yet. And you're going to do that for 3 iterations. When doing 4 gates, on an in-person session, you're waiting for the colored fork for the dissipation signal of when to take them off and reactivate and put your next iteration on. It doesn't so this is not only getting rid of the liver chi stagnation, but that large intestine 4 is the command point for the face and the head. So it's helping to clear up anything in the face and the head, and we're getting all this to just go in a great flow of chi. So now we're done with our session and we're going to ground at the end of the session. You've had all kinds of energy, you've put forks up on the head and the neck and all over the body. So it's very, very important to bring the person in and ground them. I'm going to use 2 low ohms, but you use whatever ohms that you have that you wish to do. So they've had a lot of energy. We kind of like to go ahead and let them hear the ohms. So if they've gone off to the Wu Chi or to that place where they're healing, if they start to hear the ohm to come back to earth, to their home planet, and then your protocol calls for you to go ahead and ground in whatever way you like down here on the kidney 1 gushing spring.